Like many, my cold story didn't happen in a single lightning bolt moment. It happened in stages, unexpected turns, and funny moments where God had to get creative to get my attention. One of my earliest aha moments was when I was a teenager. I wanted to learn how to play guitar, not for church, but to impress a girl. Uh, the only person I knew that could teach me was my pastor. But he had one condition: I'll teach you guitar, but you have to play in the church. So instead of learning Sweet Child of Mine, I ended up learning Amazing Grace. God has a sense of humor, doesn't he? That was just the beginning. There were many moments like throughout my journey, uh, and I really never set out to be a pastor. I was content to serve in the church in whatever form I could, but sometimes when need arises, God puts you in the place where saying yes becomes an act of obedience. Not because you feel worthy, but because you know someone has to step up. When I received my residency here in America, had the opportunity to go to college. Many people encouraged me to study something related to ministry, but I wanted to do something different. And cooking had always been a passion of mine, so I enrolled in culinary school. For 3 years, I lived in the tension of balancing two worlds. I was pastoring a congregation on weekends and studying culinary management during the week. Both paths were fulfilling, and I loved the creativity in the kitchen and the teamwork, but and the joy of preparing meals. But also loved seeing what God was doing in the church. Yet I knew that a decision would eventually come. I couldn't do both forever. The tension wasn't just about career church choices, it was about calling. Where God was truly leading me, I didn't know. Was I supposed to be a chef or a pastor? Was I even worthy of taking the sacred responsibility of ministry? In Luke chapter 5, we meet Peter living in a similar tension. He is a fisherman by trade. He's been working all night, and despite his best effort, he caught nothing. He's cleaning his nets and he's tired and disappointed. And then Jesus stepped into the boat. He teaches the crowd, and afterwards he tells Peter, put out into deep water and let down the nets again." Peter could have refused, but he could have just played safe and stay in the shallow water, but he obeys. And the result, a catch so large that the nets begins to break. Overwhelmed, Peter falls to Jesus' knee in his knees, and he tells Jesus, "Go away from me, Lord. I am a sinful man." He feels unworthy, but Jesus looks at him and says, "Don't be afraid. From now on, you will fish for people." At that moment, Peter leaves his nets and leaves behind everything that he had once defined him, and he steps fully into the call Jesus had prepared for him. My leaving the nets moment didn't happen on a boat; it happened in the kitchen. One night, while closing up the restaurant, a woman came in late and sat at the bar. My head chef told me to go and take care of the order while the crew cleaned up. As I spoke with her, we started talking. I don't even remember how it happened, but I shared her my entire journey and the tension I was feeling between pursuing culinary career and the work God was doing through the church in me. I was living in that tension. I told her that I had applied for divinity school for a scholarship, but honestly, it felt like a long shot. I didn't think it that I had what it take to go through seminary. Uh, it was just something I had submitted, not really expecting much to come out of it. And then she smiled and said, "I am one of the deans of the divinity school you applied." I was speechless. She said, "I'll put a good word for you." And in that moment, I knew that God wasn't just calling me in a general sense. He was inviting me to fully commit to a journey that he had already started. I walked back to my chef. I took my apron and I told him, "I'm done." And he wasn't surprised. He had seen me wrestling with this decision. He knew it was time for me to step fully into the calling. But here is something I had to understand: it wasn't about me. Our response to God's call is not about building our own name or following our own dreams. It's about love for God and love for people. That's why I say yes. That's why we leave our nets behind. Peter fell unworthy. He fell to his knees and asked Jesus to leave him. But Jesus didn't call Peter because of Peter's worthiness. He called him because of the impact Peter would have on others. And that is true for all of us as well. None of us are worthy of this sacred task. But God doesn't call the worthy. He calls the people who love God and have a willing heart. Your story, your gifts, your passions, these are not just for you. They are instruments God wants to use to bless others. Some of you might be in that in between place right now. You're holding on to your nets, your routines, your comfort zones, your fears of unworthiness. But God's call often comes in those in between moments. He steps into our boats, He meets us in our kitchen, He interrupts us when we least suspect it, and He invites us into something greater that we can imagine. And let me be clear, not everyone is called to become a pastor or go to seminary, but all of us are called to serve. Perhaps your calling looks like teaching children, visiting the sick, cooking meals, mentoring youth, praying, and faithfully advocating for those living in the margins. God's invitation is not about a title, it's about willingness to step into His service inside or outside of the walls of the church. The question is not whether you are worthy. The question is, are you willing to trust Him? Are you willing to leave your nets behind?
We are a digital church with physical expressions. A physical expression means that we also do what we call branch groups. These are physical groups out in the community where you exist. We want to make sure that you are connected in spaces, and you can either be in home groups, you can be in third spaces like coffee shops or restaurants and those kind of things, because we're not designed to do life alone. So I want to encourage you, say, hey, where do I find a branch group in my area? We would help you with that. Or maybe you're the one that says, I want to start a branch group in my area, and I have people who want to come alongside me. Reach out to us and we will help get you through the training and help guide you and what that would be like. Come and join a branch today.